Hello, and welcome to one of our contractor education series presentations, Branding and Website Integrity Matters. My name is Robin, and I am a web and graphic designer with Keokee Contractor Marketing, a design and marketing agency based in Sandpoint, Idaho. We work with home builders and remodelers to help them generate leads with their branding, websites, and marketing. So I'm here today to talk to you about branding, what it is, why it matters, and how to approach your own branding with integrity. But first, I want to talk to you about burgers. So let's consider the humble Whopper, if you will. Now, this may look like the burger you see in ads on TV or billboards, and it just might look good enough to entice you over to the nearest Burger King to get one for yourself. And when you do, you may find that your Whopper experience does not quite measure up to what you saw on that billboard. But you're hungry, you probably expected the bait and switch, and so your brand impression of Burger King remains intact. But we are talking about burgers here. So if you extend this idea to a product or service that is more impactful and more of an investment, like home remodeling, for example, you can start to see how it becomes something worth paying attention to. So when we talk about brand integrity, we are talking about how well you deliver on the expectations set by your branding, that are those promises that you make to your clients and your potential clients. Now, don't get me wrong, there certainly are some remodelers and builders out there who deliver a brand experience that is the construction equivalent of this sad squashed burger here. In fact, the internet is full of contractor nightmares and horror stories to back that up. But what we've found with many of the contractor encounters, contractors that we've encountered, is that usually the opposite situation is going on. So they tend to deliver a brand experience that looks more like our billboard burger. They've got the expertise, the reputation, and the happy clients. But the problem is that their brand promise looks a lot more like this burger. So this is the situation that we see most often with the contractors we work with. Their branding and marketing undervalue the services they are delivering. Not only that, but the branding creates a negative expectation that now has to be overcome with the brand experience. So that's the problem. Well, what's the solution? How do we build a better burger, if you will, and create a brand promise that matches our level of brand experience? The brand experience that our clients have. So we start by asking questions like, what problems do we solve? Who do we solve them for and why? What do we stand for? And what makes us different? And once you've answered these questions, you can start thinking about your brand values and how those can be expressed through important brand touchpoints like your logo and your website. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce you to a tool that we use with our clients when we're honing in on those brand values that are going to be not only authentic to the business, but also will resonate with the desired audience. And that is a concept known as brand personality. So brand personality is simply human characteristics associated with a brand, typically expressed as adjectives that convey how you want people to perceive your business. It's a straightforward enough concept, but there is a certain structure that we can use to apply it. This is known as the brand personality framework, where you can see 5 personality groupings. We have sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication, and ruggedness. This simple framework has become the most widely used model for helping brands align their values, their culture, their brand promise with a highly relatable personality type. So the way that you apply it is to think of the adjectives that best describe your brand, what is true to you, and how you want to be perceived. They could be adjectives listed here or others that you might think of. But the idea is that the personality traits you choose to represent your brand will fall under one of these 5 dimensions. For example, imaginative falls under the excitement dimension. Charming falls under sophistication, and so on. Now, when we go through this exercise with our clients, they usually say, well, I can't decide. My brand is a little bit of all, or at least several of these things. But keep in mind that you can't be all things to all people. And a marketing message that tries to go in too many different directions at once ends up getting watered down and being less effective overall. So what you'll want to try to do is to identify a primary personality dimension, the main one that you want to project, and then you can augment that with a secondary dimension. So try, if you can, to limit it to just 2. So after looking at these, do you see a strong alignment with your brand along 1 or 2 of these personality dimensions? So why is brand personality important? Anyways, why go through this exercise? The idea is that by giving your brand a personality, you make your brand more relatable. People purchase from brands they like and relate to. They identify with traits that they see in your logo, and they identify those traits that they see in your logo with traits that they see in themselves. Brand personality also helps your marketing connect on an emotional level with potential clients, which is important because emotion drives decision-making. Another thing that brand personality helps you do is to differentiate your business from the competition. You are giving people a reason to choose you, those emotional connections, other than price. So to show you how the brand personality dimension is expressed through brand identity, here are some logos of brands that you're probably all familiar with, grouped according to their primary brand personality dimensions. Do you see how the color, the typography, and the iconography of each logo gives the feeling of the brand dimension that it's grouped in? For example, you see a lot of red in the excitement group, dynamic shapes like that Nike swoosh. Whereas in the sincerity group, there's a lot of cursive or script typography, where you have letters that are very close together and touching, kind of lending that personal touch or that intimacy sort of feeling. So that is all well and good for these mega brands, but how do we apply the concept of brand personality to a contractor logo? Well, let's go ahead and look at some examples. We are going to go through a few logo redesigns that we did for some of our contractor clients. And I want you to pay attention to the brand attributes of the before logo and then to the attributes of the redesigned logo. So the first one here is for Springs Home Improvement, a remodeling contractor based in Colorado Springs. So when we look at this logo, I might think things like home repair or maintenance, handyman, or feels very utilitarian, not a lot of design, aesthetic, or beauty, just sort of feels like it's getting something done. So when we worked with this client, we want to ask, well, what is the desired positioning? How do you want to be perceived? And what they said to us was that they want to be perceived as stable, creative, experienced, and as problem solvers. So along that competence dimension, primarily. So the redesign looks like this. And if you compare that with where they were before, you can see a very different brand personality coming through, and a very different sort of feel and feeling when you look at this logo. So let's look at another one. So this is for a remodeler in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area called Ardan. This was their before logo. They came to us. It feels very generic. Those primary colors, red and blue, almost makes me think of like can't, off-brand cola or something. But the words that come to mind, generic, as I mentioned, uninspired, just sort of unprofessional, just looks sort of slapped together, and weak because it's just not really saying anything in particular. So when we talked to them about their desired positioning, they expressed that they wanted to be perceived as competent. So you can see where this is going, reliable, dependable, and professional. So this is a pure competence style logo. Let's see what it looks like. So there's your after, which does a much better job of projecting and communicating those values than their before logo did. Okay, we've got one more here. And this is for one called Franz Construction, and they're in the San Luis Obispo area in California. So their initial logo that they came to us, certainly not the worst logo that we've come across, but communicates a sort of an industrial feeling, feels very masculine. It kind of reminds me of like some kind of metal work or rivet. So it has this sort of durable sort of feel to it. And there's a certain strength to it. It looks like it's stamped in steel or something. So they came to us and wanted to be positioned as the contractor who is capable. So there's the competence piece, but then also creative, exciting, and successful. So some things that don't necessarily aren't in that one competence dimension. And in order to differentiate, they actually decided to play up those things that you wouldn't think of for a contractor as the very first thing. So that kind of creativity, that excitement dimension. So the after logo for them is something that's more dynamic. It has that bright orange in it, and just feels like it has some energy, but also strength and capability, competence as well. So if you compare their before and after, you get definitely a different vibe from the two logos there, even though I would say of these before and afters, these two are probably the most similar, even though they're definitely different logos, but they do have a few similarities. So what is the takeaway from this other than that before and afters are always fun? Well, it's that by defining your values, your brand becomes more valuable. You want to remember that your brand has power. It sends a message about your company's values and purpose. That message can attract, can repel, or it can have little to no effect on your desired audience. So it is something that's worth the time to get right. So there are a couple of sort of guiding principles that you should keep in mind when you're thinking about your branding. First is that you'll want to take a client-centered approach. So what this means is that your marketing materials, including your logo, are not about you and your preferences. The purpose is to connect with your potential clients. So you do want to keep that target audience in mind, not only when defining your values, but when considering the design elements in your logo. You want to choose colors that communicate your values, not simply, red because it's your favorite color. So the second thing to keep in mind is that you do want to be intentional with your decisions. So, the idea is that whatever your logo looks like, it is going to send some kind of message. So why not be intentional about it? You want to decide who your ideal customer is and then project the values that are authentic to you and your company, but that you also believe will resonate with your audience. So think about your own logo and what traits or adjectives come to mind when you look at it. Ask yourself if your logo sends the right message for the kind of client that you are hoping to attract. So you are right now considering how closely these things are aligned, and you've identified perhaps the brand personality that you want to project and then compared that to where you are now. So there's another piece of this puzzle that you'll want to look at, and that is going to be the competition. All brands are after one thing. You want people to choose you over all of the other remodelers out there. So a competitor analysis can help you understand your competitors' weaknesses and where the opportunities are in your market. A thorough competitor analysis will look at various aspects of your competitors' businesses, including their branding, their marketing strategy, their sales process, their customer service, their reputation. But with our clients during our discovery and analysis process, we go more into depth on the competitive landscape, looking at things like website performance, search engine dominance, service offerings, all of that. But since this talk is in the context of branding, we're going to focus on just the logo. So for example, let's say that you're a remodeler looking to do higher end work, and you're trying to decide whether or not it makes sense for you to rebrand. And here is your logo. So you do some research to see what your competitors are up to, and this is what you find. So you notice that most of them are offering design build, so that's an important thing to keep in mind. But you also notice that there are not a lot of standouts, a lot of, the kind of roof lines like your current logo, a bunch of saturated, very bright colors, high contrast. In looking at these logos, do you see how you could perhaps gain a competitive advantage by positioning your branding in an elevated way, especially when you're competing on a design build playing field? So there's a design aesthetic that you are trying to sell your clients that you possess. So demonstrating that you have that through something as simple as a logo can send a powerful message. So if we look at an alternative to the before, a redesign, you've got a logo that's now aligned with your brand values and your target audience and stands out from the competition. So there's another aspect of brand integrity that I want to mention, and that is consistency. So this includes your logo, of course. It includes your website, your trucks, yard signs, hats, t-shirts, business cards, social media, and any other collateral that you use to represent your business, like advertising or sales flyers, all of that. And that's a lot of stuff, but it all goes toward reinforcing your professionalism and your brand values by creating a consistent experience for your clients through all of their interactions with your business. So you can build toward that level of brand expression. This particular client here that you're looking at, Premier Construction out of Palm Springs in California, has built up their collateral over the course of the last couple of years. So it's not something that just happened overnight. But the first step is to take a good look at your logo and make sure it's aligned with your brand values, or at the very least, not undermining them. And your other marketing collateral can flow from that. So what would you guess is the next priority for your marketing collateral? If you thought website, you are correct. I think that we all inherently understand in this day and age the importance of a website to your lead generation, but let's put some numbers to it. So first impressions are 94% design related. 75% of consumers admit to making judgments on a company's credibility based on the company's website design. And 38% of people will stop engaging with a website if the content and layout are unattractive. And unfortunately, time is not on your side. You have about 5 seconds when someone first lands on your site to grab their attention and get them to stay. In those first 5 seconds, the visitor to your website is wondering, can I trust this website? Does it look professional? Is it relevant for me? Does it solve my problems? And there's another way to put this, and that is that design does in fact matter. So you're looking at part of the homepage for Spring's Home Improvement. And it's a before and after a redesign of their website. We looked at their logo redesign a few slides ago. So which of these two sites feels more trustworthy and credible? Which of these sites would make you more likely to get in touch about doing a major home remodel? So what if your services, however, aren't the big remodeling type of jobs? Does design still matter? Well, the answer is yes, it does. Even if you're offering handyman services like these guys here on the left, you still want to appear credible and trustworthy to the people who visit your site. So this other example here, so on the right, is a remodeler based in the Denver area who focuses just on basements. So this is a service page for that segment of their services. So aside from making a positive first impression in those critical first 5 seconds when someone lands on your website, it also needs to clearly communicate what you do so that they know that they're in the right place. So let me go back to Spring's Home Improvement. So if we look at the homepage here on the left, you can quickly and easily tell that they offer home remodeling services. Home remodeling done right. It has it right there in the headline. So if we look at the other one, for those kinds of cues, we see a lot of yellow, which is attention getting. We see an image of a bathroom with the toilet kind of as the focal point. And if I was to land on this website on the left, I might initially think that they are a plumber, just on that kind of first impression kind of feeling. They look like they're going to fix my bathroom. And that might work fine if the person is actually looking for a plumber, and that's also what you do. But if you're a remodeler, you're going to want to make that clear right off the bat, like our redesign did here on the right. Okay, so your site makes a good first impression now and is clear about what you do. Now, how do you persuade them to contact you once you've made it past the first 5 seconds when someone is deciding whether or not to stay on your site? So if you dig through the analytics, that is the page views and traffic for a bunch of different contractor websites, you will find that there are a handful of pages that consistently get the most attention from visitors. We will call these your high value pages. That includes your homepage, your portfolio, and your about page. So let's go through those pages and I can give you some ideas for best practices that you can implement. Let's start here with your homepage. And this, sorry, we've covered this in other presentations, but we'll go ahead and review it here. Okay, so the content and design of your homepage should follow the TSEC model, which stands for Trust, Connect, Excite, Clarify, and Call to Action. So what that means is that the content on the homepage should cover each of these things. So you'd have your elements up top that establish trust, your branding, your testimonials, maybe a big hero image, and clearly stating what you do. Some of the content is meant to connect with your visitors. So that's going to be sort of the about your business, maybe your UVP. Then you'll want the kind of content that gets visitors excited. So this would be project photos or perhaps project videos or testimonials. And then you want content that clarifies your processes, your services, et cetera, that sort of thing. And then of course, you want a call to action so that people know what steps to take in order to move forward. Excuse me. The next most visited section of your website is going to be, not surprisingly, your portfolio. The first thing I want to touch on is the difference between a gallery, excuse me, a gallery style portfolio and a project-based portfolio. So a gallery style portfolio displays a collection of photos, whereas a project style portfolio is going to feature individual projects. So here are a couple of examples of gallery style portfolios. So pretty straightforward. These little text links here are filters that basically just sort the photos by service category. So a visitor could just look at the kitchens or just bathrooms if that's what they're interested in. Whereas a project style portfolio is going to be structured a little differently. It actually consists of multiple pages. Okay, so here's an example. First, you have your main portfolio page. So that's the one here on the left. And this is the one that someone lands on when they click the navigation link that says portfolio. This page displays all of the projects with each project typically represented with an image, maybe a project title that displays when you mouse over it, like this one here. When you click a project, you are going to end up on a page that looks like the one on the right, where all of the information on the page is dedicated to that single project. Now, it's on these individual project pages where you can really pull someone in and not only demonstrate your expertise, but really tell a story that can get them excited about their own project. So let's look at what type of content you're going to want to include on your project pages. So at a minimum, you're going to need a project title and a gallery of at least a half dozen photos of that particular project. In addition to that, we highly recommend including a project description or narrative where you have a paragraph or two giving some background on the project, maybe the project goals, what the client was hoping to achieve, that sort of thing. You can get into creative solutions that were implemented, any interesting materials that you may have used. We have clients often use before and after photos, video testimonials, drone footage even. It's really your opportunity to bring the visitor into the story of that project and get them excited about taking on their own project. And it also has the benefit of positioning you and your business as someone who can guide them on their own journey. So here are a couple of portfolio page examples that show you how these different types of content could be displayed. So we see on the left, in addition to the kind of the main hero image of the project, we have the title, the gallery, kind of partly on the page there. We also have some project stats as well as video embeds that give the visitor an option to watch a home tour or a testimonial video. Whereas this other one on the right, similar in some ways, has the hero kind of image up top with title and categories, the gallery, as well as a written testimonial and some before and after images if you scroll down the page. So now with that understanding of the difference between gallery style and project-based portfolio, we do recommend using the project-based approach whenever possible. Since it's a better, more in-depth way to showcase your work, it's going to have a higher perceived value for your visitors, which will help boost your credibility. And because you can construct a more complete narrative around your projects, you're going to get better engagement, which in turn will, of course, create more leads. So then why wouldn't you use a project-based portfolio? Well, from the contractors we've worked with, it typically comes down to simply a matter of not having an archive of project photos in the first place. They simply don't have the content to support that type of structure. And then there's the bigger investment of resources required for a project-based portfolio. First, you have to plan the content that you're going to include for each project, and then the time and money to actually generate the content to get it on your site. So hiring the photographer, taking those before and after pictures in similar locations, that sort of thing. Okay. But let's now talk about another high value page on your website, and that is your About page. So what you'll want to include, first, let me just say that this type of content is super important for service-based businesses like home remodeling and construction, where establishing that trust and making personal connections can be the difference between getting a job or not. So you'll want to include information like your USP, which is your unique selling position, marketing jargon for a unique selling position, which is basically your positioning statement that is a simple, direct statement that clearly communicates what your business does, who it serves, and why it's different from your competitors. And most importantly, how that difference directly benefits your ideal client. You'll also want to use your About page to tell the story of your company and the philosophy behind it. Someone who is considering a remodel or other significant home improvement project is about to make a big financial investment, and they want to know how your business started, what's kept it going, and who are the people behind it. So, with that, don't forget to include those photos of you and your key team members. Finally, you'll want to share your company's philosophy, and that is what it stands for, what are its values, all of those good things. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of About pages so that you can see how these pieces come together. So if we look at this one here on the left, we can see some of those elements in place with a nice big photo of the team and the owners and their family, kind of establishing that sort of family first, family business kind of a feel. We've got some text kind of going over their company story and then their own individual expertise as owners and then as team members right below that section. The example on the right is kind of a little bit further down on the page, but it has a couple of unique elements that were worth calling out. So one is in particular, since it is also a family business, I believe 4 generations of builders, there's a section down here where we used some old photos that they had of grandfather, great grandfather, maybe even great 4 generations. That's a lot. So, but all of the kind of history behind the family business there. So that was a nice thing to include that kind of communicates not only the kind of connectedness to the place that they work and that they serve, but also just that sort of experience and family legacy that comes with working in the trades one generation after another. So, all right, I think that that's what I wanted to say about the About pages. And there are many other aspects of websites that I didn't touch on today. And that's because I wanted to focus on the type of content that you can leverage most effectively to communicate your brand values and tell a story that will connect with your potential clients. So to kind of summarize, I think that's a nice little way to think about it. But to summarize what we kind of covered today, what you'll want to do is start with your values and build upwards from there. So by starting with those values, asking those questions about what you stand for, why, who you serve, and then building out your brand personality, extending that across your marketing touch points, you will be much better positioned to attract the clients that you want. And I'd like to conclude that with an offer for anyone who's watching this video to request a brand analysis. So you can go to our website on this link here, and you can get your own brand analysis of your logo to kind of start taking those first steps to see if your marketing is serving you in the best way that it can. All right, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching this video.